Welcome to Rwanda Television News, the news in details. Now, on Sunday, commemoration activities were held to remember the more than 3,000 Tutsi who were killed at Nyanza of Kichukiro, taken from the Eto Kichukiro after being abandoned by UNAMIR troops. Serge Nori has more.
The United Nations Assistance Mission for Rwanda left the Tutsi to their fate at 2 p.m. on the 11th of April 1994, and they were then forced to walk up the hill of Nyanza Chichichiro by Interahamwe militia, where they were massacred. Most of Specio's Mukairanga's family was among those killed there, including her husband and many of her friends and relatives. It would have been her fate too had it not been for the RPF in Hotanyi.
Surviving here was like a miracle to us because it looked like all hope had been lost. Every time the 11th of April comes around, we remember that this place of Nyanza, where our loved ones perished, is the same place our lives began afresh. I want to thank the RPF in Hotanyi and all those young soldiers that shed their blood to protect us, because they too would be alive today. Even if we were to die now, we have already planted an important seed for this country, so we would not be sad to go now because we would not be leaving nothing behind.
The spot where more than 3,000 Tutsis were massacred that day is to be expanded and merged with the garden of the memorial site there. You can see that another memorial grave is being constructed, because as the years pass, we are fortunate to find more and more bodies of our loved ones as the locations where they were dumped are uncovered. That is why the grave area here is to be expanded to make room for more bodies as they are brought. Over there, you saw the memorial garden, and it will eventually be linked to the memorial center itself so that visitors can visit both whenever they come here to learn of what happened here and visit the graves of their relatives. Kigali's mayor has stressed the importance of youth visiting the memorial. This is a message directed especially to the youth, but to all Rwandans in general as well, and those that still negate the genocide against the Tutsi and harbor genocidal ideologies. We see them here and there, which is why we urge young people to come here and learn from what happened and understand that those who were killed were people just like them and that their lives were stripped from them. It is a shame that a person can actually try to deny that it happened or try to name it what it is not. That is why we must denounce them and ensure that this history is not forgotten by future generations. When the genocide began on the 7th of April, many Tutsi fled to Eto Chichichiro because UNAMIR soldiers were based there and they were sure they would protect them. However, they abandoned them just 4 days later, and the Interahamwe militia that had surrounded the school for days then moved in and took them to Sonatib, planning to kill them there, only for the mayor of Kigali at that time, Colonel Tarsis Renzaho, to order that they be taken up to Nyanza because the main road of Sonatib linked to the international airport, and those using it would see the killings occur.
Now, elderly genocide survivors living in the Mhinganzima nursing home are thanking the government for bringing hope after losing their entire families in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi.
Inyasien Nyotkwajira is 80 years old and lives in the nursing home located in Huye district of the southern province. Back in 1994, she was living in what used to be Mugusa commune in the former Butare prefecture and had 7 children. But not one of them survived the genocide that was perpetrated against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Crippled during the genocide, life became very hard for her after it ended. It was really difficult to cope, and even going insane was not out of the question. I was alone and felt like nothing in this world could ever make me happy again. I would look at people and not see them as human beings, rather animals that might attack you at any time and again do to you what they once did, taking everyone you once loved from you. The elderly living at the nursing home have faced a lot and now also face the threat that is COVID-19. And to make matters worse is the fact that almost all of them cannot wear face masks because of respiratory problems. Thankfully, the staff at the nursing home have ensured that they are safe from the pandemic. Something else some of them struggled with before they came to the Mhinganzima nursing home is harassment. The place I lived was full of people we did not see eye to eye, and I had no one I could tell my grievances among my neighbors. If anything, there was a man that constantly harassed me every time the commemoration period came around. It is as if every year towards the end of March he would prepare a host of hateful things to say to me. I was therefore grateful to hear that I would be coming here. Gratitude has been extended to the government of Rwanda many times by the elderly living at the nursing home for taking care of them in ways their family members would have had they been alive today. The managers at the nursing home also help the elderly genocide survivors to hold commemoration activities every year in the compound to remember their loved ones. Those strict precautions are being taken because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The nursing home was inaugurated back in 2017 by Her Excellency Jeannette Kagame, the First Lady of Rwanda, and currently has 101 residents.
Survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi are grateful that the genocide memorials have been merged so that they can be properly maintained, and are calling that the initiative be sped up. Now, Ibuka has announced that what used to be 400 memorials have become 220 as of 2018, and their merging is continuing, and the final figure will be made public after the operation is completed. Gloria Mutesi has more.
In a bid to preserve history of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, genocide memorials have been built across the country. Some of these have been built at district level, while there are others at cell level that have been hard to renovate. As a result, the government decided to combine these memorials so that they could be renovated and have proper security. Survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi ask that this be expedited because there are some memorials that are in bad shape in need of renovation. The memorials are not in good shape. For example, the one at Kinigi is very old. We talked about it in Musanze, but nothing has been done about it. Pouring water goes through the memorial. We even asked that we renovate it ourselves because all the leaders we've had throughout have told us they would renovate it, but in vain. There are some memorials that have been merged, and the bodies of the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi reburied, something that has pleased the genocide survivors. We are so glad that the bodies of our loved ones are now in a place that has good security. The memorial that was here was in bad shape, but now that it's been renovated, it's significant because it's given value to our people that we lost. District officials have noted that merging the genocide memorials to reduce their numbers will help them maintain them and their security too. Among the 9 genocide memorials, the ones that are properly built are 3. Up to now, we don't have a district memorial. We have prepared a feasibility study for constructing a district memorial to preserve the history of the genocide of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rutsiro district. Some of the smaller memorial sites that were hastily built in the past out of necessity will be merged into that new one. Ibuka says immediately after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, there was an urgent need to speed up the burial of the victims, after which they realized some of the burial grounds were in poor condition, hence why it was decided that some memorials be merged for proper maintenance. The executive secretary of the umbrella organization of genocide survivors, Ibuka, Naftal Ahishachie, says the progress is significant and is continuing. This initiative has begun at a time when some people that found the bodies of their loved ones had started burying them at the ruins of their former homes or in the compounds of their own houses. So we started talking to them about the benefits of having memorial sites and burying the bodies of the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in these memorials. People understand, and we can confidently say it's been done up to about 80%. There were also some cases of so many memorials, be it in districts or sectors, where if, say, about 50 bodies were found in a cell, they would be buried, and the spot named a memorial, and the process repeated in another cell, and so on. It was decided that all these smaller memorials should be merged at locations with the proper infrastructure to properly maintain them. Ibuka has announced that what used to be 400 memorials had become 220 as of 2018, and their merging is continuing. The final figure will be made public after the operation is completed.
Now, some children who do not know their families due to their parents being killed in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi are seeking medical care and shelter to address the issue of displacement they face. Now, the Ibuka Association finds that these issues need to be addressed through the multi-stakeholder cooperation.
Some of these children that were living in orphanages were brought up by different families. Sibomana Emmanuel, one of the 30 children who did not know their origins and was brought up by one of the families, is in Kamonyi district. The elderly couple that used to take care of this young man, who is now 28 years old, passed away and he had nowhere to go. He currently stays in Kajina Cell in Rwanda sector in a house that was given to him for the meantime because he cannot pay for it. He is unable to do anything because of back injuries he sustained as a result of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Getting food is also a challenge to him. We never got to know our families. We found ourselves in the orphanages. I got sick and I would be in hospital being taken care of by neighbors or friends. Someone would just come and give you perhaps 1,000 Rwanda francs, or another one could offer you maize flour, and that's how I've been sustaining myself. 28-year-old Uwamahoro Monique works as a housekeeper in Kamonyi district. Her concern is the lack of access to medical care because she can't afford it. We suffer from different diseases but can't access medical care because of lack of money. I suffer from ulcers, and I have some issues with my bones, and that's why I'm always limping. My scars too are always painful and very itchy. Aside from a lack of access to medical care, these young people that never got to see their families because of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi are concerned that they have no shelter and are vulnerable. It's never easy, not having a future plan or not knowing what's to happen next. If I could get where to stay, that would be a starting point. Residents of Kamonyi district say that various agencies should work together to provide immediate assistance to these children. He was chased out of the house he was living in by the owner, fearing that he could die from there. So when he left hospital, he didn't go back to that house. He can't even cook for himself because he's disabled. Ibuka Executive Secretary Ahisha Chie Naftal says there's some misleading information about these young people because of personal gains, hence not finding their families permanently. He, however, says that local authorities should remember these people that lost their families. It's challenging in a way because they keep saying they don't know any of their origins. But in the event that that information is still being gathered, there should be ways that these people can be helped. As I mentioned earlier, these people have deep traumas and grief for their age. So anything small they face really affects them, and that's why we should deeply care for them. In addition to not having basic needs for these young people whose families all died in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, there are some who show signs of trauma from being lonely and a lack of knowledge of the history of their origins.
During the genocide, Kaitare Gitan, who had been crippled by a car accident, rescued 30 Tutsi who were being hunted, making him one of the protectors of the pact, also known as Abarinzi b'Igihango, at the cell level. Now, the National Unity and Reconciliation Commission says Rwanda needs more of them during this period of the commemoration to help Rwandans on the journey of unity and reconciliation. Kaitare Gitan, a 57-year-old man living in Mukoni village in Nyarugunga sector in Kicukiro district in Kigali. He has a disability caused by a car accident back in the 1986 as he was in the then army. In 1994, he rescued more than 30 Tutsi who were being hunted. Although he himself claims to have been one of the hunted, he had kept them safe at the military hospital in Kanombe, where he worked, and he continued with them, where they took refuge next. I hid them in the maternity room, and afterwards they had to move to Butare, where I also joined them later on. Life became difficult in Butare, so I led them to Cyangugu district. Every time we walked by a person in need of help, we would take him or her with us. Even when they felt helpless, I would give them hope for surviving. Sometimes I would tell someone to push me on my wheelchair as I lie that my house is being attacked, yet I want to get them to wait on the people in that house to join us. He says he was well aware that he too could be killed, but he chose to save the lives of others on a journey that he believes was difficult. The journey was difficult, but we had no choice. I did what I had to do to save them in every possible way. Despite the fact that I knew I could die, I had to do the right thing. One of those he rescued, Kaitesi Sandrine, as she was a little girl then, says if it wasn't for him, she wouldn't be alive today. She thanks him for his courage and braveness. She says had there been more people like him, there would be more survivors. If only we had more like him, we could have had more survivors. First of all, his condition wasn't good, but he had the biggest heart, so much so that he hid all of us. He used to move without anyone giving him a hand. No words can describe how grateful we are to him, because at that time, no one was to get out of the camp, as I was among those that are to be wrapped. For this, Kayitare was made a protector of the pact, also known as Umurinzi w'Igihango, because even after the genocide, he adopted some orphans. He is the one who raised me from my infancy up to this moment, and I'm grateful to him. He paid my school fees and did for me what any other parent would do for his or her child. He has been supportive through everything and anything I needed. The Executive Secretary of the National Unity and Reconciliation Commission, Fidel Ndaisaba, affirms that the protectors of the pact will always be thanked for their bravery. He says more of them are needed during this period of commemoration to help Rwandans on the journey of unity and reconciliation. As we commemorate and thank those who were brave enough to rescue the survivors, we also recognize the Inkotanyi as the protectors of the pact. Their values and actions prove to us that everyone is capable of being one in a given situation. Such brave actions are needed now too, while we continue on this journey of reconciliation, so that we never again reach the point we did when the genocide against the Tutsi occurred. The protector of the pact, also known as Abarinzi b'Igihango, are the people who portrayed bravery during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi by rescuing the Tutsi that were being hunted, denouncing the atrocities that were being committed. According to the National Unity and Reconciliation Commission, there are currently 3,383 protectors of the pact at the cell level, 1,075 at the sector level, 40 at the district level, and another 40 at the national, totaling to 4,538. Well, on behalf of the entire news production, thank you for staying with us, and I wish you all to stay well and stay safe as we commemorate for the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi now. I'm Jane. Bye for now.